Let's get started. I want to start with a little short piece on the new documentation, the 5 main concepts. I've broken it down to those. And basically, the Historiotheque is my art studio and sound design laboratory and research lab as well. It's an interdisciplinary art research practice. And I just released the minor version, the semantic version. It was an official release of version 4.2.0 just the other day, and I made a video, so you can watch that if you want. But today I want to talk about the new documentation, which is, it's not really new. Documentation has existed for a very long time. I mean, it's always existed since writing has existed. Clay tablets, Cuneiform clay tablets were a form of documentation. But in my art practice, the Historiotheque, there's 5 main concepts, which you'll see how it makes sense afterwards, I hope. So the first is transparency and accessibility. I needed to make it transparent. I think that there was this artist sort of mystique that there was out there for artists in a lot of the time in history, in recent times, in modern times, where the practices were kept secret. Because I mean, this comes into the maybe some of the other things, but that transparency to me is important. Transparency and accessibility, and as you'll see later, reproducibility and accountability. To me, that's important because I want people to be able to see exactly what I'm doing, to have like a sort of audit trail. So I'm not nothing. Everything's in the light. Nothing's hidden in the darkness. I mean, everything's out in the open, and it's done online. It's accessible because anyone who has a web browser can see the documentation, all of its forms of logs, of the different logs, how they distributed logs. They're distributed so that there's redundancy in the distribution of risk. So anyways, we can go back to that. But the second main concept is reproducibility and accountability. Accountability, as I said earlier, is to leave an audit trail. That's so I can be held accountable. If I say I'm going to do something or that I did something, I really did it. You can check the logs. And reproducibility is because I think artists should be able to, who want to do the same experiments, because art is experimental. You could just do the same experiment. You have the lab notes and everything. You just take the materials out and do the experiment. If you want to do the research, you can reproduce the research, but I give you all of my references and everything. So the third concept is collaboration, community engagement, because it's a sort of open source art, the open source artist. And the reason, I mean, that I didn't invent that, obviously. Open source has existed before and artists have been open source, but I think, like I was saying, the artists and the mystique that there was around, the artists and their ways, and how there's commercial interests, of protecting copyright and the management of the rights and the upholding of the intellectual property rights. So in a way, they're trade secrets, and there's always been trade secrets in art. But I think the open source artists can really share with the world their secrets. Just why not? I'm maybe one of the first artists. Probably I'm not. I think I can think of a few that have done that. But I mean, just let it go. Confess. Share the secrets. There's nothing to hide. We're not doing anything magical or mystical. That's what's kept it so difficult for artists to work, is that you work in your studio and people barge in and break and destroy your studio and looking for like the pot of gold and the magical sticks that you're using to do your magical stuff, because you're creating value out of recycled materials. But that's actually happened to me. But the thing is, they sort of see that it's called the avarice of the eyes, is sort of greed of like, he's got money in there, he must be doing something magical, it's a mystic. And so anyways, I wanted to stop that. So the fourth concept is iterative development and version control. So I've taken, I practiced programming for maybe 12 years or so. I learned to program, and I learned theoretical computer science, a lot of it, and quite a bit of it. But I never really practiced. I mean, I did my own software and scripts mostly, and the Ref Cards project and all that, and some of my documentation, my lab notes and all that. Had software that helped me write those and organize them. But iterative development, like, it's kind of a continuous delivery for me, where I'm constantly uploading onto GitHub and everything the the documentation of all my practices and all my processes, and all, again, to keep the audit trail, to keep it accountable, keep it transparent, keep it accessible, and so that it can be reproducible. And the version control is that, the Historiotheque had minor version, Semantic version 4.2.0. Why? Because the one before that, I think I might make a mistake, but it was like 3.0.5. It was just a patch, and then there was a version 3.0.4, and all the way back to the first version. I started at version 2.0.1 or something like that, because I considered that I already had a previous Historiotheque concept and practice application of the concept, and I moved it several times. So there was even more than 2 versions, but they weren't conceived as operating systems, as software, as cultural software. Because that's it for that. And then the fifth and final concept is the interdisciplinary integration and interdisciplinarity itself. And that's how I do art research, and it's mixed with technology today, because you can't really do anything without technology. I use technology for the documentation, for the organizing of my work, to communicate with people, because there's another one that I didn't include necessarily. Well, no, I did. There was community engagement. That's the other thing, is that in the open source art world, you can get people to engage with your stuff, to engage with the documentation, reproduce the works, get involved in the discourse, in the interdisciplinary discourse of art and research, and get people from the humanities, philosophy, whatever. They can get together. People in technology, software developers can get interested in this stuff, because I'm using version control. I'm doing documentation. I call it the new documentation, because it's applied more to an art operation, that I call it, an art practice, art research practice. That's interdisciplinary. So that's about it. That's all I really wanted to say for today. I'm a little excited about this, you might notice, but I got this new setup, this new camera. It's not very good, so I know there's a lot of noise, and it doesn't really look all polished. But with my beard and everything, and my long hair, and my t-shirt with a hole in it, I'm not really all that glamorous anyways. And that's part of the irony of it all, is that I'm doing cutting edge work, innovative cultural work, and a lot of it's lo-fi, but that I can get into that in another video. Thanks a lot for listening. That's it for today.